Let me be honest. What Peter Obi has achieved in Nigeria, he became a symbol of, he helped to destroy many myths. For instance, we grew up, you're a Yoruba man, I'm an Igbo man. We grew up hearing all this mistrust about the Yorubas, and so some of us may actually die with this imagination that there's some innate mistrust and a suspicion. However, when Peter came out, I can tell you the top champions of that candidacy were actually Yorubas, from Obasanjo to the leader of Afenifere to the Rotimi, the two DGs, and even that's all he achieved. So I feel that God used Peter to achieve certain things, and he has done that, and I commend him. However, when I ask myself, if truly I hunger for Nigeria to be restructured, who can actually do it? If you ask me to make, because I now know most of these people, I know Tinubu, I know Atiku, I know Peter Obi, I know Rotimi, and if you ask me who is much more better placed to get this particular assignment, I'm not talking about any other thing. Some may be better in other areas, but this one agenda.
Our guest today is Mr. Valentine Ozigbo, President CEO, former President CEO of Transcorp PLC, also former governorship candidate in Anambra elections. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nice to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
Without further ado, let's get right into it. 2021, 2025, if I'm not mistaken, you contested to be governor of Anambra State.
Yes.
Without success. What has contesting these elections, what lessons have you learned from this? What are your major takeaways?
Quite a lot. I can almost write a book, but it tells you about the fragility of our democracy. It tells you about the weakness of our processes. It tells you about the unreliability of human beings, basically. But in also the same token, it tells to the fact that some may have shown all of this. There's also a lot of resilience from our people. I came out from Transcorp, not having vied for any position in the past, went straight into this race among about 15 aspirants in PDP as at then in 2021. Imagine the candidates in what people have described as the best, freest, and fairest primary in recent history in Anambra State, and went on to come second in that election, which some actually eventually came with the feedback that I won the election, and though I wasn't declared. So it gave me a lot of hope that, particularly among the younger generation, it showed me that when you have the right message, it can actually resonate. It shows me that we shouldn't give up, that we should keep rallying on, fighting on, and seeing that we don't lose hope for a better Nigeria.
Assuming, let's just do scenario, you were governor of Anambra today, would you take the same policy decisions, some of them, like that the incumbent governor, Charles Soludo, has taken, such as banishing or raiding the state of native doctors, ending the Mondays sit at home, and all of that, would you take some of these decisions that he has taken?
I would take decisions better than he has taken, and in a manner better than he has taken. So some decisions are very rash and usually not done with enough dialogue and consultation. This is why I feel that Governor Soludo honestly needs to learn more of emotional intelligence. It's going to help him in whatever he's doing, in governance, or even in private life, whatever he decides to do after government. Because what emotional intelligence does for you is to, first of all, humble yourself, tells you don't know everything, so you're able to engage people, synthesize, build dialogue, and by so doing, have the best of the outcomes. So some of the decisions were taken very rashly, some taking very late in time. A lot of what happened in Anambra, particularly around insecurity, he didn't start tackling them on time. First, second, third year gone before, when he was getting close to his re-election, he became more serious. Now we've seen some improvements, so I commend him on some of those, but I would have been more proactive. And let me also say this, most times it's not really about the what. People usually focus a lot on the what. What is this person doing? What is it about to do? It's actually the who. Who is taking, because the who earns you the trust or the otherwise. If you're the right person, and if, for instance, your hands haven't been compromised, you're not compromised, you're able to take a more determined, firm decision that, as you're taking that to the community, or the private, the business community, the market leaders will jump on, knowing that we can trust this man to take this decision. So the who is always missing in the argument. Who are you? So who is Governor Soludo? Who is Valentine Ozigbo? That is a game changer. Because if Val is somebody they trust, they can trust, somebody who they know mean well, will take this decision in the interest of the people, I will earn more confidence and so more impetus in carrying out some of these activities. So yes, I would have done things differently, and that's the message.
I believe strongly any Nigerian, whether Yoruba or Hausa, Fulani, not to talk of Igbos, would be proud either yourself or Governor Soludo, was the governor of Anambra State, because head or tail, Anambra wins. That's what I think. But specifically on some of these decisions, take the market shutdown every Mondays. Many commended Governor Soludo for how he handled, initially it sounded rash and a bit high-handed, but look at the result. The state was bleeding. In fact, the entire region was bleeding heavily in terms of, GDP losses because of that shutdown. But then he came there and said, if you do this, I'll shut this market down. They dared him. He shut it down for a week. And then next, everybody showed up there. Do you fault that approach?
So here's the point, because that statement you made earlier, head or tail, is actually where people get it wrong all the time. Okay. Why did you say that? Because he's a professor, former CBN governor, and all that. You look at titles, you again forget the point I just made about the who. Who are you? If somebody, for instance, is arrogant, self-centered, then you're not good for leadership, particularly in a state like Anambra. So it's not head or tail. There's something we're losing when you just swap, thinking both of them are good enough. Yeah, they may be good enough. Somebody could be better. I sincerely believe I would have done a better job. Here's the point I'm making about the outcome. I commend him for the boldness to finally get this job done. I'm saying, why did you wait this long? And why take that decision rashly? Did you engage? Did you meet with these market leaders, understand? And even some of these actors, engage them, dialogue, and read the Riot Act nonetheless, and be firm. Governor Mbadi did the same thing within 100 days of getting into office. Why did it take you 5 years to do the same thing? My point is that we cannot take away what we have lost because there was a time he actually did something like this. More insecurity happened. He did nothing about it. So if you had an idea what could have been done, why didn't you do it earlier? Why didn't you do it in a manner that would engender more confidence?
Tell us, 2027 is fast approaching. Yes. The timetable is out. What are you contesting for this time around? Senate, governorship? Even though I know the governorship is still some 3 years ago. But what are you doing 2027? Or is it over for you politically?
It cannot be over. And I'm contesting for something, not for office, but for something deeper than office. Something. I am a single agenda person. If you go back to my tweet of January 1st, I put it there. I said that there's only one New Year resolution that I have, which is how do we get Nigeria restructured? I want this to be framed into the conversation for 2027 and beyond. I feel genuinely that God has provided this window to reset Nigeria. Nigeria is not working. Trust me, we can be better than where we are today. And we have a case of two knives in Ogina's house. One that is sharp doesn't have a head. The one that has head is not sharp. So in that regard, you see that we are just, carrying on, moving on, and hoping where we end. I commend what is going on in the leadership. I feel we can do a lot more. But here's the issue. Nigeria was never designed to succeed. I've read enough, known enough, experienced enough to come to this conclusion. And there can't be any better time than now, given the insecurity in different parts of Nigeria, given the fact that lives basically have no meaning in Nigeria. So how do we get either the government in power? By the way, there's only one option now. How do we make sure he gets this into the conversation so that if he gets back into office in 2027, this is done? So I'm not interested in the issue of governorship or senatorial. I'm not going to run for any of those. What is important right now is to see that we don't allow this moment to leave us behind, where you now see that literally every part of Nigeria has come to the conclusion it's not working. The Yorubas are complaining. The Hausas are complaining. The Fulanis are complaining. The Middle Belters are complaining. The Igbos are complaining. And the answer is not in secession and tearing us apart. Nigeria ought to have been a union of multiple nations. From day one, they forced everybody together. No conversation, no negotiation. And even the effort made in the past were all, wasted away. This is a moment we can't miss. And we've seen that this is re-echoing. I was just in the US the other time, and even in the diaspora, they are eager to see the Nigeria work. And the only way we can get that done is to go back to the root cause of the issue. Most of what we talk about are symptoms. Whether it's even the insecurity is a symptom. Corruption is a symptom. Poor election processes is a symptom. It's like that because we've concentrated everything to the center. And everybody sees this as a do or die, and they get in with. And once you go in the wrong fashion, you're likely going to have your hands tied. So, but when we unbundle and reset and reimagine Nigeria into what we're talking about, and by the way, this is something that's been age-long. The patriots have been talking about, everybody's been talking about it. So for me, it's a shame that we're still talking about this. What the hell are we talking about? Why can't we get it done? So this should be the conversation right now. I have gone into politics hoping that I could, begin to shape the conversation from state ground up. But we might wait forever. The truth of the matter is that people have argued about this chicken and egg. Do you restructure Nigeria before you find the right person, or wait for the right person before you restructure? So right now, let's keep that argument. Get it done nonetheless. Mr. President has also done a few things, President Tinubu, to show that the inclination. He's talking about state police, talking about the sovereignty of the local government. He's talking about economic development commissions in different zones. He's talking about even more resources to the state. There are several reasons to show that, but all of these are reversible. We now need to firm this and give it legitimacy so that we can have different parts of Nigeria begin to fire on all cylinders.
Now that you're on it, let's just drill down on it. You alluded to the fact that people are always asking, is it a case of chicken and egg? Yes. Is it leadership that is our problem, or is it the system of government? Mind you, some countries, some of the oldest democracies, like the United Kingdom, do not have a written constitution. One of the oldest democracies on planet Earth. The government, the elections, democracy is seamless. One of the best models of democracy on this earth today. That's one. Secondly, let me give you a rough statistics. 22% of Nigerian hospitals do not have clean water and soap. Clean water and soap, 22% of all hospitals in Nigeria. Out of this 22%, 12% of them only have, water and soap for delivery, for child delivery. And that is why Nigeria is the highest country for maternal and infant mortality rates in the entire world. Now, here is where leadership comes, because this is not about constitutional law now. When you now have a government at every level using huge resources to buy SUVs, to build whatever it is we're building, all this monstrosity we're building everywhere, is it the constitution that mandates a leadership that is God-fearing, that is responsible and alive to do the right things?
My dear brother, what you've just described is an epic example of symptom. You can't be having fever and just taking anything and rubbing the skin. The best thing to do is to go back. What is the cause of this, the source of this fever? Where is it coming from? That's what we have always failed to do. Let me tell you this. People usually will look at three things as responsible for what you just described. One is leadership. Two is citizenship, inept citizenship, delusional and basically don't care citizenship. And then culture. What culture drives our DNA? Do we have a culture that celebrates status quo or challenges status quo? A culture of continuous improvement. These are the three. But even these three are symptoms of something deeper. We were dislocated metaphysically. Nigeria is not a nation. It's not like what happened in the US. We hold this as truth, as self-evident. Do you understand? We've never had this. How did we even gain our independence? The first one part of Nigeria to work with the other part of Nigeria, and we've always been teleguided. Go back to that and solve the issue, and all these things will fall into place. Nigerians are more patriotic to their immediate nations. A Yoruba man is more patriotic to the Yoruba nation, and Igbo nation, than he can ever be to Nigeria, because Nigeria was designed from day one not to ever succeed. It was all divide and rule thing, and we know the source. We know when it happened. Why haven't you gone back to deal with it? Because when you deal with it, first of all, Nigeria, are we secular? Are we religious? We don't know. We don't even know if we're secular or religious. And why would we even say we're secular when some insist that we're religious? Why can't you define some of these? So when you say God-fearing, which God are you fearing? We are messed up. And we are messing ourselves up into it. So what do? Go back and reset it from the foundation. When you do that and create nations, trust me, we will hold people accountable. What you're talking about is a classical case of when the citizens now wake up and say, you know what, this cannot happen. And when you start to do it right in the Yoruba nation, Igbos will copy if they are start getting it right. If you're doing it right, before you know it, we're competing on the right values. And before you know it, Nigeria will evolve to a country and a union of nations that you're going to be proud of.
Last question on this. If we now balkanize the country into...
Not balkanize.
I get
the wrong choice of word.
Okay, if we now
reimagine, reset.
Reset, yes. Into different nationalities. And then take the Yoruba that I'm from, and then you have the Bola Ahmed Tinubus of this world. The South, they have the... Just picture Bola Ahmed Tinubu
yes.
as a type of the Yoruba politicians that we have now. Then you have South, Nyesom Wike as the type of politicians they have. And then go to all the different parts of Nigeria. Just imagine, because what you have only done is that you brought these guys, the guys at the commanding heights of political leadership, you brought them from the larger picture, you brought them to the lesser picture, and they're still lording it over, abusing the people, tormenting the people, not providing any leadership. What do you say to that argument?
Simple thing here is, let me be honest with you. When you reset Nigeria, the overarching principle is that Nigerians will now take decisions in the interest of Nigeria. Not some people external, not some colonial masters, not some elites, Nigerians. And when we do this, and we are responsible for putting you into office, we will hold you accountable. The reason all of that is not happening because we are knocking ourselves up. When you have a homogeneous people whose identity, and if, for instance, a Yoruba nation decides to use Chinese model to run Yoruba nation, or Ifa model where they go and consult the gods and decide who their leader is. Here's the point. When you do it right, and we're hoping it can be done right, Nigerians in different nations would hold their leadership accountable. And by the time you see that 1, 2, 3, 4 are doing right, the rest will jump because they know the consequence. The real power starts number one, God. After God is citizens' power. Then citizens' power, this inept citizenship that we suffer is a result of this dislocation. Cure that dislocation, you will see Nigerians become more active. After all, we demonstrated that in what happened in the NSAS. We demonstrated that what happened in the 2023 election. Nigerians can actually rise up and do what is right. But we need to make sure that dislocation is cured.
Would devote an entire episode for this restructuring
I'm happy
issue,
to do that.
because we've not even dealt with it.
I know. I
So
agree with you.
let's leave it for now. The questions are many. Now, switching gears, you're one of the major backers of Mr. Peter Obi prior to 2023, a leading voice in the obedience movement.
Correct.
At what point did you realize you needed to, I don't want to say jump ship, and maybe go on your own, chart your own course, if I may use that phrase? At what point did you realize you had to move on?
It's an area I usually refrain from engaging at this point because I know people are interested. I have even been blamed, condemned, judged, unfairly because of this. But I have given enough information that at this point. And what did I say? I said that the party that I had my hopes on, I was hoping that Labour Party was going to be the alternative. But what I now went through in Labour Party showed me they were even worse than the parties we were criticizing. And some of the people who were in leadership, including Mr. Peter Obi, for me, failed that test of leadership. We couldn't galvanize Labour to become that. And that's why the losses in different states. And then even in my own case, I was literally sacrificed. Literally. For whatever reason, I saw this coming and I couldn't believe it. Everybody expected me to be the candidate of Labour Party.
You were thrown under the bus.
It's unbelievable, but I don't want to go into details. Here's the issue. When I saw that happening, I engaged, I reached out, I fought, I appealed, where was this coming? Why was it happening? The only person Soludo was scared of was me. The only person that could have led Labour to win was me. But even the leadership, Congress was held, and everybody who were on my side were thrown under the bus in the Congress of Labour Party in Anambra State. I complained, I wrote petitions. So when I saw what was going on, it didn't make sense. I started even wondering, are we even serious? No, come on, I don't want to waste my time with unserious people. So even though I am not a proponent of APC's ways, to be honest, I'm not proud of what APC has done. I'll be honest to say, even though I'm in APC, some of us are inside APC to say this to the leadership. Let's do better. Let's earn the trust of people. Let's conduct ourselves better. But I am better off being there to fight inside. At least I'm with some serious people than to be with unserious people. That's the reason. Let me stop at that.
We can't let this, we can't lay it to rest. Is Mr. Peter Obi a trustworthy person for leadership? I need to ask you pointedly, is Mr. Peter Obi a
I will let
trustworthy
Nigerians
person?
decide on that.
From your experience.
If I will answer that question,
Yes.
I will answer that question after the 2027 elections. I won't answer it right now. I just want to leave it at that. I don't want to, be an impediment to anybody's career. I wish Peter Obi well. I have my respect for him. And let me be honest, what Peter Obi has achieved in Nigeria, he became a symbol of, he helped to destroy many myths. For instance, we grew up, you're a Yoruba man, I'm an Igbo man. We grew up hearing all this mistrust about the Yorubas. And so some of us may actually die with this imagination that there's some innate mistrust. And a suspicion. However, when Peter came out, I can tell you the top champions of that candidacy were actually Yorubas, from Obasanjo to the leader of Afenifere to the Rotimi, the two DGs. And so when you now tell me a Yoruba man does not like Igbo man, I almost slap you because it's not true. That's what I mean by Afenifere. The point I'm making is that even if that's all he achieved, so I feel that God used Peter to achieve certain things, and he has done that, and I commend him. So I don't want to speak in any derogatory term where he is. However, when I ask myself, if truly I hunger for Nigeria to be restructured, who can actually do it? Whether he would do it the way I expect is a different conversation, but who can actually get Nigeria, who has the boldness to get Nigeria structured? I think the current president has by far more to offer. However, we can't just assume he's going to do it and do it well. So how do we come together as citizens? So if there's anything I want to involve myself in today, in today's Nigeria, how do we galvanize citizens? First, develop the blueprint and champion discourse and partner with government to see that Nigeria is reset. That, for me, is the legacy I would rather leave for my children.
Okay, some would argue, including myself, that your legacy should not be restructuring, it should be providing leadership, but that's not the question.
The answer is the same thing. You're actually saying two different. So you cannot restructure without the leadership. I am helping to provide the leadership. Because if you don't have the leadership to do the restructuring, it becomes chaotic. So both are together. One is leadership, another is the strategy. Restructuring is the strategy of the leadership.
You are coming back to my position when we talked about this. But the issue is that even this president that you seem to believe will do it, has spent 3 years, by May will be 3 years. He's not done anything. And he has all the powers if he wanted to. That's not the question now.
Before you leave that, I don't want to leave that comment. See, we know in part. Okay. We see in part. Okay. That's a limitation of humanity. Because I am also spiritual. Anything I tell you, I can't even make any major step of my life without engaging God first. So, truly speaking, I am that deeply faith-based human being. And therefore, we see in part. You don't know what he has gone through. The reason I am not all out campaigning for Asiwaju is because I said to myself, I have to engage him one-on-one. I'll have to interrogate him and get convinced. Do you understand? So I'm only saying this because you're pushing me to say anything yet. So I'm not campaigning for Asiwaju, not yet. However, if you ask me to make, because I now know most of these people, relatively, I know Tinubu, I know Atiku, I know Peter Obi, I know Rotimi. And if you ask me who is much more better placed to get this particular assignment, I'm not talking about any other thing. Some may be better in other areas, but this one agenda, you can't, I can argue this from here to heavens. However, I also don't want to fold my hand and hope that he does it. No, we can actually get this conversation to a point that he won't have a choice. Asiwaju will then do it because this is what Nigerians demand. If we could push it in these other smaller agenda items, how much this thing that literally our life, our spirituality, our development, our identity depend on. How much more now that, because before now, different people will be shouting this. This is actually what led to civil war. When Ojukwu and Gowon were in Aburi and reached the accord, what was the issue? Ojukwu came back and said, on Aburi we stand. Gowon said, no. Who? We knew where Gowon, how he changed his mind, who told him to change his mind, because we've always allowed, I wish our nationalists and who came after refused to allow their heads knocked over each other. I wish, no matter what, for instance, Britain did, that the Zigs, the Awolowos, the Sadranas, Ahmadu Bellos had come together, Tafa Bello, to say, you know what? Let's come together as one and develop in our own interest. But what you find that some of these actions were actually not taken by us, not in our own interest. And so let's go back to that fulcrum and get it reset.
Beautiful. let's lay the matter of Peter Obi and yourself to rest. People have said, I follow a lot of these issues, that it was Mr. Oseloka, Tony Nwoye, and a few others like that, who sowed the seed of discord between yourself and Mr. Peter Obi. In fact, I read something, where it was pretty much said that you're even naturally taller than him. You speak better, and I don't say that in derogatory terms, because Peter Obi, even however he speaks, he communicates, and is a man of great stature. But people probably whispered in his ears that, hey, if you make this guy governor, this guy will loom larger than you. This guy would assume a larger than life status. Who exactly, and what perhaps brought a wedge between yourself?
I can only be God to answer this question.
But you have your own, just like I read. You also read.
You're trying to probe into what I've asked you.
That's my job. That's my job.
Here's the issue here.
Yeah.
Please, why don't you engage Peter Obi himself and ask him these questions? And because anything, I don't believe in hearsay. And by the way, I don't even like this attitude of, you see an adult who takes a decision, just like when Buhari was in power. Some will come and be telling me there's a cabal influencing Buhari. No, don't tell me that bullshit. If Buhari is incompetent, he is incompetent. If he's taking advice from wrong people, still hold Buhari responsible. Don't look for somebody else to hold responsible. If anything is wrong with Nigerian government today, I will hold Mr. President responsible. Not his chief of staff, not anybody, because you have ability to sack the chief of staff and put somebody else. So leave Oseloka, leave Tony Nwoye. If you have anything to say about Peter Obi, engage him directly and ask him.
Let's move on from that. You set up the Valentine Ozigbo Foundation.
Correct.
And the fulcrum of that foundation is ethical leadership, promoting ethical leadership. There is nobody who is intelligent, average intelligence, who does not realize that one of the biggest challenges that will face any reformist-minded leader is the ethical revolution of this nation called Nigeria. So you're an apostle of ethical leadership.
100%.
You criticize the APC, their ways, their governance styles, even their leadership and everything. Yet you decamp to the APC rather than SDP, Amaechi Shore's party, and the rest of them. Isn't that a strange...
No, that's the mistake people make. No, it's not. It's not. Here's the issue here. See, I didn't just wake up to go into politics. And I didn't do that because of fame or money. I have had to engage myself and ask, how do we change the story of black people in the world? I have one prayer I make to God all the time. God, please, I want this story to change in my lifetime. So it's about alignment. It's about strategy. It's about conviction. It's also about delivery, execution. If there was a strong, solid opposition, and I say the leadership, and I trust what they're doing, God in heaven knows I will have had nothing to do with APC. But we don't. So it's either I joined APC or I went and folded my hands and do nothing. And that for me is evil in itself. Now, joining APC, that I tell people I'm in APC, but not of APC. Just like I can say I'm in the world, but not of the world. We are in APC to plead, to engage, to insist. When I went to APC, even though I was only a few weeks old, I ran for primary, I saw the charade, I went to court. Do you know what they were saying to me? You just new. Why are you taking us to court? I went from High Court to Appeal Court to Supreme Court to make a statement that this must stop. And when they said, let's negotiate, I said, no, we can't negotiate anything unless you assure me that this type of primary will never repeat again in Anambra State. When we have that conversation, and I can have confidence in that, then we can settle. So I am in APC for a purpose. And guess what? There's no alternative. The reason people are jumping, it looks like a Nigerian one-party system. It's not just because APC is wooing them, bringing them. No, because opposition is unserious. On a serious note, do you know this? If Asiwaju was in opposition, you would have known the meaning of opposition. So the point here is that I don't want to waste my time. Why don't you get into APC, see how we can navigate it, shape it, help it, and become a better platform for Nigerians. And maybe we achieve that. And guess what? I actually see some signs already. And like, for instance, who is the current national chairman of APC? And some of us actually feel that some of what happened in Anambra and FCT, what led to that new chairman. So it means we're making some progress. So let's also see that things continue to improve. It's still not where I can be proud of. That's why some of us find it difficult to just come out and be telling, I'm not a propagandist, to tell, oh, everything is going well, this and that. Of course, there are some things Mr. President is doing well, but there are some other things we are appalled by. Here's the issue. And that's why I could even write an open letter to Mr. President to say to him, please don't even suffocate opposition. I actually still want to see a stronger opposition in Nigeria today. But not this, what I've seen. I don't want to, condemn totally. But however, I am not impressed with the opposition. That's why I'm in APC.
Okay. I don't want to overflow because we still have a lot of issues to deal with. Now, INEC has released timetable for 2027 general elections. What's your take on this timetable? Is it an improvement on the past or more of the same? And, does it meet your standards?
Well, timetable usually follows the rules of the game, the Electoral Act, now in law. So if they have to respect the notice period and all of that and all the dependencies, that's what leads to the timetable. The real issue here is the law that has been passed, and some of us are not impressed by what has happened. The whole idea of it must only be direct or consensus, I don't think it's proper. I also don't think that we should have been debating on this issue of transmission from polling units. I also feel that, in fact, there should even be a provision for people to be able to run independently. So you don't even need a party, because sometimes party platform becomes an impediment. So you can decide, if you think you're popular, you can campaign, go on. So these are the things I would like to see happen. However, even if they don't happen right now, I don't want this to go beyond this period. I want, whenever President Tinubu is done, I want to see and usher in a reset Nigeria of my dream. A Nigeria where we can now, because what you find is, this dislocation I keep talking about, if you study this well, deeply, you understand how this has affected literally every life. Even the corruption you see in the churches, in the mosques, is stemming from this dislocation. So let's cure this. It's not even an all that once you restructure everything, Eldorado, it's not. But we will have more impetus to build on the morality part of things. You still need to make sure that ethical leadership gets embedded. And for me, I like us to compete even on that. If the Igbos get it right and they are spiraling, the Yorubas will hold their people accountable. And so when we begin to compete, naturally things will evolve. So let's get it right from the bottom up. That's my answer.
On this electoral timetable stuff, initially, I thought you would have mentioned it. Initially, the timetable was in February of 2027. But then people protested, faith-based people protested that, it will clash with fasting. And so INEC succumbed to such pressures and dialed back. Whereas under former INEC chair, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the way the timetable was set was almost cast in stone. Anybody, any high school who is brilliant enough could determine the date of elections in the future.
I agree with you. I agree.
So if INEC could succumb to such inane, I'm almost a pastor. So if I'm saying such inane, mundane arguments that because of fasting, as we speak, Mr. Val, there's war. Ballistic missiles are flying between Iran and Israel. They're not talking about fasting.
I'm not happy that innocents are even dying on that. However, if only that there won't be any pilgrimage, if that's the only positive about this, let government not sponsor Christian or Muslim pilgrimage. If you want to travel to Mecca or Jerusalem, pay your way in and let's move on. I'm with you on that.
But the question I was asking is that why would INEC, if INEC could succumb to such pressure, then what other pressures would INEC succumb to?
Here's the issue here. I keep telling you, I don't want you to keep dwelling too much on the symptoms. If I take this same conversation even to a business environment, you will see how businesses are hemorrhaging. And unfortunately, people don't link it up. So you go and do your feasibility study. For instance, you assume that maybe Benue is a fruit basket of the world. So that's always fine, citrus. And you go and build a concentrate plant. You've done your feasibility, production costs, and then all of a sudden, insecurity hits. Insecurity hits. You can't even travel, visit your factory. You can't produce. Staff gone. Business collapses. And where did that insecurity come from? How, if you trace it back, go back to the need to restructure. So when people, for instance, are going abroad chasing for foreign direct investment, and your environment is not competitive enough. I remember when I was at the Hilton, you are running a hotel that's almost 100% in occupancy, and then a bomb goes off in Kano. I lose half of my occupancy. So that should force you to think. And how do we solve this problem? For me, that should be our preoccupation right now. So some of these things we're talking about, the succumbing of INEC, I'm not surprised. It's expected. But when we get this thing resolved, I actually want us to get to a point where INEC becomes irrelevant. Security, whether you know IGP, becomes irrelevant. How do we take this to the level of digital technology, where we can leverage on blockchain technology to build systems where you can be even in your home and vote? And that can be done. The new Nigeria we're imagining, and by the way, that's how the younger ones will outclass the older ones because they hardly even use their phone. But the starting point is, let's restructure Nigeria.
As a devout Catholic, I guess,
Yes.
I want you to be upfront. Don't sugarcoat it, even though you've done very well so far. The commander-in-chief, that's a very powerful position, constitutionally recognized. In spite of insecurities, killings, mass killings, massacres, almost genocidal. Some of these have even surpassed the definition of genocide. Does the ruling party of which you belong, does it deserve to be re-elected in 2027 based on insecurity, the massive killings across the length and breadth of Nigeria?
Let me be honest here. I am not proud of what we have achieved as a nation, whether under PDP and now under APC, particularly on this area of insecurity. I am one of those who continue to call it out what it is. Indeed, there is Christian genocide. There's no sugarcoating here. Are there also Muslims being killed? Yes. Does not remove the fact that there are some jihadist tendencies that are marauding and everywhere, actually sacking villagers and occupying their territories. That cannot be lost on anybody. In fact, to say otherwise, the blood of innocent will be on you. And so that's where I feel. However, what I have seen is that perhaps there are some things Mr. President has in mind to do which he hasn't done, which I actually feel we should take advantage of this arrangement, the engagement with the US, to solve this problem. Because what you find is when some say we are surrendering our sovereignty, the truth of the matter is that it hasn't worked. We have not solved this issue, and we have even messed things up. How can you arrest some bandits? You say you have converted them, and now they are in the military. Are you out of your freaking mind? However, what I think we need to do is, I actually prefer to suggest that Mr. President Tinubu engages with Mr. President Trump and said, we need help. I need help. Let's work together. I think that is also already happening. Work together to solve this problem fundamentally. And so hopefully the killing will stop or minimize, and value of life can now become something. So here is not me defending, I've said it before I joined APC and now I'm in APC, I have never been here to defend the wrongs. God in heaven knows I am on my salvation journey. So I will not, because of anybody, my loyalty first is to God. Next is to Nigerian citizens, then the leadership. I am loyal to President Tinubu, but after my loyalty to God and Nigerian citizens.
Back to this ethical leadership, that's challenge, the deep rot of immoral leadership that we face in Nigeria, that has percolated down the entire system. We have these situations now. Number one, the celebrated debacle of Senate President Godswill Akpabio and another Senator, Natasha Akpoti, went on and all of that. Then Senator, former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, seen in a video massaging the foot of a lady. And initially he denied it, said it was AI. Later on he recanted and said, no, it was him, but she's a friend, a South African friend. She was going to have deep vein thrombosis, so it became an emergency masseur, had to save her life, as it were. Before that died down, and then we have this particularly situation now of Minister for Works and Housing, Dave Umahi, and the lady alleging she did some job for him when he was deputy governor and all of that. And rather than Mr. Dave to address the substantive issue, he had the temerity to say that if the lady were Natasha Akpoti, it would have made sense to him to even respond to her. Because how do you respond to this? Are these the sort of leaders Nigeria deserves?
It's just to tell you that we also have our own Epstein files.
Can Restructuring also take care of this?
If we could have an Epstein scenario in the West, how much more here? So but on a more serious note,
yes.
I honestly want to send a message to everybody. Mm-hmm. I don't know what we think about this life. Mm. I don't know why we don't understand how transient life is. Any one of us can die tomorrow. Mm. And some of us, if not all of us, involved in some of these actions, actually know and believe there is God. We even know and believe that God has heaven, has hell. Mm. And then our actions, I don't know why they think that what we do in politics, we are not going to be personally accountable for. Mm. I'm saying this to urge everybody, and this is nothing to do with whether you're APC or, because what I've also seen in some of these opposition parties, it is as rotten as what you are talking about. It's just that it's not yet time. I may even write a book in the future, but not now. What I'm telling you is that we need to fear God. I'm begging Nigerians, fear God. And the new Nigeria we're hoping demands Samuels and Davids, ethical leadership, people who will want to purge themselves of evil. My mantra, what I used to encourage a lot of us, is 2 Chronicles 7:14. For those who are called by my name, to humble themselves, to repent, seek my face, and repent of their wicked ways. Let us please repent of our wicked ways. Then God will heal our land.
Brilliant. And I say amen to that prayer.
Amen.
I say amen to that prayer. Now, with all of these defections of governors, maybe as of today, with Fintiri, the last one, maybe 31 or 32, I don't know, senators, all the opposition parties have been hollowed out completely, Are we in a one-party state? And has President Tinubu or the APC, has he, because the leader, has it strengthened or weakened democratic culture or practice in Nigeria?
I'll be honest again, it's two sides to this coin. I know that the party I belong to would like everybody to be in one party. That's not what Nigeria deserves. But unfortunately, we don't have very serious people. What we see are a bunch of self-centered people
in opposition
who care about themselves alone. No, see, look at this. Look at this. Some of these people have been governors, all of them. Do you understand? And you can see how deliberate Asiwaju was in making sure he supported and activated people in different places long before now.
Yeah.
That's strategy. I'm not even saying he should do as much, but help some, and don't even be in the way. In some of these cases, we even said to them, okay, don't even support me, but stay away.
Yeah.
But still they wouldn't. So that's why some of them would jump into this opposition without any clout, without getting one governor to follow them through. The point I'm making here is that when you are on the side, you see an incumbent where literally everybody is. You see a position that is totally weak and there's no future. What will you do? So nobody has a gun on this guy's head. Somebody like me did not go to APC because of appointment. My name was rumored in the first appointment list. I went on social media to reject it. So I'm not there seeking for appointment. I've never called any human being on earth begging for, put my name on any appointment. If you even appoint me, I'm going to reject it. Because I'm not going to have this voice that I have talking to you right now. What I'm telling you is that hold opposition responsible because they're not strategic. I came out to run for governorship. I will be begging these people to show interest. If you go to them, they will leave your governorship and be talking about their presidency. And I will remind them, your own is 2027, mine is 2025. They don't care. They don't pay attention.
It would be remiss of me if I don't ask you economic issues because you are a technocrat.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's your forte. Governor Peter Obi of Enugu State just yesterday said President Tinubu's policies have turned around the economy, massively. So much money is going to the subnational entities. And by so doing, the economy is on the upward swing. We need to do this sharp, quick fire. What's your quick response to that?
You see, I love what Governor Mba is doing. He's one of our shining examples. Him and Oti I'm most proud of in the Southeast. And I don't know the circumstance of what he has said. I have learned something in this politics. I don't jump into, because I know how people do not even care about my own circumstance and started blaming me for joining APC. They haven't spoken to me. They thought I was one who betrayed. They thought I was one who absconded. They have no idea what I went through, how I wanted to stop what was happening to stop. So in this case, I'm not holding brief, but Governor Mba may have said it based on his own paradigm. I feel that Nigeria is not where it ought to be. There are some bold moves Mr. President has taken, yes. Even the tax law, even though, again, the idea of what actually was passed in the National Assembly, what was signed, I don't like that kind of argument. However, it's a bold move to see that we plug leakages, if it's well intended. But there's also a bigger question. When we have more revenue, how are we applying it? And that's where we need to urge Nigerians to get up and hold their leadership accountable. This idea of fear, my business will suffer, this will suffer. You're already suffering anyway. Let's hold the subnational and the federal accountable for whatever kobo that comes into the purse. And that's what I would say. There are certain bold moves I feel the president has taken that may percolate over time. But for now, I know Nigerians are still hemorrhaging. And particularly, I like to see the real solution in the real sector, agriculture. I like to see security improve. Let people go back to farm. Let farmers be protected. I also hear a lot of imports of food that's now dwarfing and complicating issue. On one hand, you're achieving depreciation coming down. However, we also need to protect the farmers themselves. So in these areas, I feel we can do better.
Last one on the economy. The president said they have done a lot of reforms, merging the exchange rates, removing fuel subsidy, all of that, increasing the electricity tariff. The biggest one actually is the tax reform, which is going to take, the major part of it is going to kickstart maybe next year after election. So said Mr. Rotimi Amaechi. Some major argument against it is that why not create jobs? Get people gainfully employed, get them productive, get the manufacturing sector up and about and all of that, create MSME, clusters and all of that. Before you now begin to talk about taxation, What's your quick response? Less than a minute.
You can combine the two. Okay. The idea of this or this is not, the truth of the matter is not government that creates jobs. It's the private sector that creates jobs. And what they've actually done, if you study what they've done in tax law, there are actually some kick-ins there that might even favor people at the bottom of the pyramid. Because many things have not been waived, from VAT, the accommodation, and all of that. So when I listened to Taiwo break this down, because I had to engage him, and I was convinced that there's some rigor that went through the thoughts. So I feel that if we solve these overarching macro issues of insecurity, trust me, the private sector will begin to do better, and this tax law won't be an impediment. We can have both actions taking place. Let government do more. Let them nudge private sector. Let's also stop leakage, but let's also utilize the resources judiciously. That's even where my biggest concern is. The fact that there's still leakages even at the top, and at the subnational, there are still leakages. So when more money goes to, you see all the states now going to airline business. Some you hear where a plane that's sold for $5 million is in the book of the state at $15 million. So when you see things like that, you need to question. Leadership must be held accountable, and citizens should stop this fear mongering.
How do you describe the obedience movement today?
I even want to say to people that when things are not going well, in their opinion, maybe it is time to be disobedient and not necessarily being violent and chaotic, but challenging the status quo. I feel that obedience served a very important purpose in 2023 to show that Nigerians of all parts of Nigeria can actually come together to chart a common cause. And it wasn't just the youths, even the elders. I've never seen where all the ethnic nationalities came together to back one purpose, from the Afenifere to Ohanese to Pandef to Middle Belt, even some of the northern elders. And it gave me a lot of hope. Now, going forward, what I think is important is to move away from personality politics. So it's not about Peter Obi or Tinubu or Atiku to ideology. Let's fight the battle of redeeming Nigeria. So if you ask me, I would tell them to channel their energy towards restructuring. We can build a synergy, a strategy, a blueprint, and tell the world this is what Nigeria should look like, and push this through. So if we now decide to make noise about it, we are making noise about this because that's where our future depends on. Now that we've also seen that sometimes you may think that somebody is the Messiah, only to discover that it's far from being anything close to being Messiah. We've seen some of us were celebrated when Obama became president. Some of us are questioning, did he even serve us right? Why did we even celebrate in the first instance? So there are many cases like that. There are some people who almost thought that with Buhari as president, everything is solved in Nigeria. But even though some of us won, and now they are the ones saying it's the worst president Nigeria has ever had. So why did we jump into such conclusions? Personality politics hasn't helped us. No part of Nigeria is happy. And therefore, go back to the reason. And so I have to end whatever I'm telling you, back to restructuring, because we need to now ask ourselves, why has it taken us this long? It is honestly sheer stupidity.
In your opinion, and be honest, Mr. Val, can President Tinubu win a free, fair, credible election that is transparently conducted? Can he win on the evidence, on sheer weight of evidence of 3 or 4 years in office?
Actually, he can. Not because of what he has even done, but because of what some people are hoping he could still do when he gets back. And when people win, it's not only because people love them to win, because people reject the alternative. I wish if Mr. Peter Obi was exactly what he was in 2023, if Atiku and if Rotimi, if all of them could have done better, invested more, been proactive, supported the elections in Imo State, in Edo State, in Bayelsa, in different places, built up, maybe there wouldn't even be need for coalition. Maybe the obedience would have been stronger, labor would have been strong. All of these are missed opportunities, which have considerably weakened the opposition, such that people have, some of us have written off a possibility of any other person winning, not because Tinubu is well-liked and doing amazingly well. No, because the alternative doesn't even exist. And therefore, some of us, okay, why don't we now even help this man to achieve more? Let's him try and do more. So for me, I'm on a singular agenda. If we have a good understanding that's going to restructure Nigeria in the manner that we envisage, I will be his champion. At least he will win my polling unit. So that is what I can assure you.
God or the gods, I don't know whichever one, will not forgive if I don't ask this question because it's been something nagging at my heart. The Igbos, as an ethnic nationality, they've given or gifted Nigeria great sons, and daughters over the ages. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Michael Okpara, Chinua Achebe, Pius Okigbo, Christopher Okigbo, Chief Odumegu Ojukwu, the father of Emeka Ojukwu, Chukwudifu Okuta, Supreme Court Justice, Alvan Ikoku, Ben Nwabweze. The list is endless. Dora Konyele, Ngozi Okonjo, Chimamanda Adichie. The list is endless. No, hold on. Don't add those ones. The list is endless. Now the question is this. I see an emergent breed of Igbo who are, pardon my choice of word, dodgy characters. No pedigree. Nothing of substance attached to them. I have very good friends. Chidi, Dr. or Professor Chidi Odekal, a very good friend. Professor Sam Amadi, my very good friend. Yourself. So, how did the Igbo, allow people like, even Mazi Nnamdi Kanu emerge? How did Nnamdi Kanu become such mythical figure that he could issue a command and the entire Igbo nationality listen to such a person? What happened?
Nothing has happened beyond what I've just been talking about here. And it's not just the Igbo nationality. Same thing is happening all over. In the Yoruba nation, in the Fulani nation.
To this extent in the Yoruba.
Actually, to that extent, trust me. After all, when you've mentioned some of the characters you're calling dodgy, we also have Alex Oti, we have Peter Mba, we have some, even among the crop of leaders today. Here's the point. You see, what was done to us, I attended 140th anniversary of the Berlin Conference in London in December, where Scramble for Africa happened, and Bismarck called a meeting in Berlin and brought all the Western leaders. And that's where they dissected and scrambled for Africa, without Africa on the table. And that's how the British took over. And the rest is history. Nigeria was designed in a manner that we lost meaning of who we are. We don't even know who we are. We don't even know our identity. I did a video recently, what I call 12-point letter, which I convert to audio, to Ndi Igbo, where I addressed this point you're making. And my own journey started with self-discovery. I was telling myself, I know who I am. First in God, and as an Igbo person, as a covenanted tribe. So when we say to ourselves we are the Jews of Africa, we should mean what we're saying. And that is not any call for superiority, it's for responsibility. That if God has loved us this much, what have we done in return? We've disappointed God. So it's back to moral, questioning our ways, our behaviors, and celebrating what we ought to celebrate. Today, People just celebrate money and not the source of the wealth. And the same thing is happening everywhere. So you are right to say that we can do better. We all as Nigerians, not just Igbo nation. And by the way, we are doing better. That's why some of us have decided not to compromise ourselves with political office. The only reason I am in politics is because I want this story to change.
2 short questions that I hope you do it in 2 minutes. Number 1, should in case Peter Obi gets the ticket of the ADC scenario, they will just build a scenario. So he gets the ticket. So he squares off against President Tinubu. Of course, there are other parties, SDP, Adebayo Adewale, Amaechi definitely will be a candidate. And a few others. Is there any pathway for any of these opposition candidates?
I don't see.
No pathway?
I don't see.
So it's more or less slam dunk for President Tinubu?
I think so. It's only God that has the final say. But as far as I can see, I don't see.
You have a large youth following. What's your message to the youth, not just Southeast, the youth of Nigeria, who have lost hope, totally disillusioned about the future of this country? What's your message to them?
I have articulated this in my Valiant movement. What is Valiant? Moral courage. Let us be morally courageous. To be able to say, no, enough is enough. To be able to challenge the status quo and do that responsibly. Let us stop hoping that somebody else has our destiny in their hand. Our destiny is in our hand. How we make our bed, so we're going to live on it. Let us actually understand that we can decide to come together and forge our future. And we can do that in almost every aspect, particularly instrumentality of political leadership. So that when we see a need to champion a cause, we champion that cause courageously. And for now, let's focus more on how we restructure, reset Nigeria, because that is where it all went wrong ab initio. And you can't be chasing shadows and symptoms and forgetting the root cause. And when we do this, a lot of things will fall into place. And by the way, let's also be the model we're hoping for. Most time people sit on the side and criticize. But who are you? How are you living your life? Live a life of morality. Even if you are suffering today, commit that suffering prayerfully and know you're doing it for your future. Our life is that wide, that long. But life on earth is this tiny. Don't concentrate on this tiny and lose the rest. If you do this well and right, and when you understand this, the only thing you will fear is God. You fear no death, you fear no joblessness, you fear no whatever. And with that mandate, you become a tool that God can use. Because today, I feel we're also in a kairos moment. Providentially, there's something God wants to do in Nigeria. But for him to do that, he needs circles of Samuels and Davids. People who have purified their heart and done what is right. So be one of those. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.